recorded in the Bible, so that even if one makes references to other secular happenings, one is firmly glued in what is true and genuine and just. As I thought about this subject and the subject of legacy, many things came to mind. And I looked through the Bible from Genesis through to Revelation, and I posed the question, who are the men in the Bible whose lives represent what we want to talk about? And I looked at chapter 6 of the Bible in the book of Genesis. And in that book, the story is told, a story that is known to all of us, that when God had created man, there came a time when the world was filled with man, and that the daughters of God saw that, the daughters of man saw that the daughters of man were fair, and they had intimacy with them. And great men of renown were born, and that sin filled the world. But there was one man who was good in the eyes of God, and that man was called Noah. And he received divine instruction to go out and prepare an ark. And I imagined to myself when that was done and said to him, and he started embarking on this journey of preparing an ark, those who are around him must have said, this is a madman. How can he possibly, in the midst of the desert, if you may, begin to build an ark while it has not even rained? And yet, somehow, divinely energized, he proceeded building this ark. And we are told that the divine instruction was that the rains would come, and they believed him not. They believed him not. They never believed that the world would be flooded. But there was a sense in which Noah, and of course by extension his family, believed that this divine voice was a voice that meant something. And lo and behold, the floods came and he was savaged. And what one learns about that is the spirit of loyalty to whom you believe. And I believe that many times we are not loyal to the voices that energize us, particularly if it is a divine voice. We believe in God, yet when God tells us to do things, we are engaged in doubt, and it is disempowering doubt. And what we learn from Noah is that when you believe in God, you are empowered and you can do the unbelievable. And here today we are gathered as men in the knowledge that our position as men requires that we believe in God, so that we are energized, so that we become good heads of our family. That is what I hear through the vicissitudes of time. But I did not stop at thinking about Noah. Another man came to my mind. And this story is recorded once again in the book of Genesis at chapter 12. The man is called Abram, because it is only when he was beloved of God that his name was changed to Abraham. And this man lived with his father in Ur of the Chaldeans. And we are told of this man that they worshipped idols. And then a voice came unto him. And he hearkened to this voice. This voice told him, go, leave your comfort zone and go yonder into the unknown. And he hearkened to that voice. The question is, what do we learn from that? We learn about faith. That when you believe in God, you've got to have faith in God. And that you've got to leave your comfort zone. Many are the times when we think that we can change ourselves and the world, but we do not want to leave our comfort zones. The story that we learn from Abraham is that you've got to leave your comfort zone. It is only when you leave your comfort zone that God can say of you that this is my friend. And we are here today to renew our friendship with God. Because even though we are divinely inspired, there is a sense in which we live in the real world where we will have trials and tribulation. And the story of Abraham does not end there. He is tested time and again. He goes into Egypt, and the Pharaoh is enamored of his wife. And he says, she is not my wife, she is my sister. And lo and behold, she is taken into the Pharaoh's household. And lo and behold, trials and tribulations afflict the Pharaoh, telling us that when God is protecting you, he will remember you and protect you in the most unfathomable ways. And it does not stop there. He is tested once again. He's told, take your only child and sacrifice your only child. And he, by dint of faith, believes it and makes to sacrifice his only child. And we as men are called upon times without number to sacrifice. And that is why we are present here today. And I did not stop at the book of Genesis. I went to yet another book in the Bible, and I was astounded at how the Bible is rich in helping us to define our legacy. And this time round, I went to the book of Daniel at chapter 1, a story that is very well told, known to us. We are told that in the 3rd year of King Joachim of Judah, Nebuchadnezzar came from Babylon and besieged the city of Jerusalem. And we are told that when he came, he instructed one of his courtiers, Ashpenaz, to go amongst the Jews, the royal houses, and pick from their number young men who are educated that they may serve him. And we are informed that among the young men who are picked were Daniel. There was Hananiah, there was Mishael, and there was Azariah. To them the king changed their names and said, you, Daniel, you shall be Belshazzar, and the others, you shall be Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And then they were told that they would be trained for 3 years, and I said that they were introduced into what one may call the University of Nebuchadnezzar. And they were there for 3 years, but there were certain requirements of them. They were told through the king's courtier and servant that you will be fed through portions from the king's household, wine and other choice food. But these young men believed in a God, and they believed in certain irreducible minimums. They said there are certain things that we cannot do lest we defile ourselves. And Daniel, leading them, told them, you know, you Ashpenaz allow us, feed us only with vegetables and water. And Ashpenaz said, no, when your body changes for the worse, the king will condemn me. But he said, try us for 10 days. And for 10 days they were tried, and when they were brought forth, they were better than other men. And we were told that these young men knew many things in the languages and the arts. And after 3 years, they were tested, and they were 10 times better than everybody else. We are here to be tested and to remind ourselves that we must wear the spirit of Daniel, Shadrach, and Abednego. That is why we are here, so that we may leave legacies for ourselves. But I did not stop there in my reading. I went to chapter 3 of Daniel. And in chapter 3 of Daniel, we are reminded that after they had served in the king's court, there came a decree from this same Nebuchadnezzar. And this Nebuchadnezzar built a statue of gold, 6 cubits tall, 6 cubits wide, and said that whenever the clarion calls, this statue must be worshipped. A real test for us men, because there is no shortage of such statues in the world. They come in the form of cars, they come in the form of money, they come in many forms. And we are abandoned our very calling, and we are told that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were then summoned by Nebuchadnezzar when the astrologers went to him and said, the Jews that you have given dominion over Babylon are not hearkening to your voice. They are not worshiping the idol. And they were summoned, and when they went there, they told Nebuchadnezzar, we shall never worship this idol, and the Lord that we serve, he may save us, but even if he does not save us, and that to me is very important, even if he does not save us, we shall not stop worshiping him. And of course, we are told that the matter became so urgent that Nebuchadnezzar instructed his workers to ensure that the furnace was 7 times hotter. And when they were about to throw those young men there, we are told they themselves were consumed. But lo and behold, when Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego went into the fire, there was a 4th man, and Nebuchadnezzar said, and this 4th man looks like the son of the gods. And they were brought forth. And we were told that they were given dominion over Babylon. That is the God that we are here presently to serve, because we want to lead a legacy. And one sees, therefore, that the Bible is rich. But we live in troubled world. We live in difficult times. Yet there is a sense in which the world is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. So that we may think that things have changed, but they have not changed fundamentally. This is why I then found myself reading the book of Jeremiah, chapter 7 and 8. When the people of Israel, because they had amnesia, they had short and selective memories, just like we do now. We do things today and we forget, and we begin to engage in things thinking that we are gods ourselves. We suffer from the Jehovah complex or the God complex, the misguided belief that we know it all, that we are the Alpha and Omega, not knowing that we are no more than breath here today and not here tomorrow. And then you hear Jeremiah telling the people of Judah, you unrighteous people, for how long shall you sin against God? And when we go to Jeremiah, and that to me is the pièce de résistance, Jeremiah 8:22, when the question is posed, is there no balm in Gilead? Is there no physician there? Why are my people's wounds being healed? And I'm telling you today that there is balm in Gilead. There is balm in Gilead, and that is why we are gathered here today, because we know that there is balm in Gilead. Knowing as we do, we must ask ourselves, therefore, as men who are in positions of leaders, what kind of leaders must we be? And that is why I found myself reading again in the New Testament. See the connectivity. See the umbilical cord between the old and the new. I found myself in the book of Matthew at chapter 20, and I see the sons of Zebedee going to the Son of Man through their mother and telling them, Master, I have a request for you. I want two of my sons, one to sit on your right hand, one to sit on your left. And Christ poses to them, are you capable of drinking from the cup that I am about to drink? Then he says, I know you are capable, but as to who sits on the left and the right hand, it is my Father who shall determine. And then he goes further and tells them, he who is to be great amongst you must be your servant, and he who is to be first must be last. We who are here today, we are reminding ourselves that our true net worth as men to be remembered is that we must be servants. And when we are servants, we will be capable of serving our people. So that the Bible provides a firm foundation stone upon which we lay our legacies, whether they be of business, whether they be of the political kind, whether they be of the spiritual kind. But you know, when you are so imprisoned in the Bible, your audience may very well say, but that was the Bible. Those were men inspired of God. We are living in a different world. Then I reminded myself that throughout the ages there are men like us, born of women who have had the opportunity to grapple with things that are known to us. Then I reminded myself that I am born in Africa and that we are born in Africa and that in Africa we have black Africans and we have white Africans and that we have Africans of different shades. And it took me to the 5th of April, 1986, a speech which is so famous and so rich, the regeneration of Africa, delivered at the University of Columbia by a great son of South Africa, Pixley Kaisaka Seme. And I remember those of you who know of this great African, one of the founders of the African National Congress, Pixley Kaisaka Seme, he said that if one is to be great, one must be proud of oneself. Because the truth is, if you don't love yourself, then you can love nobody. That is why I understand Christ, that love others as you love yourself. It is only when you love yourself so deeply that there can be an osmotic flow of the excess love to the others. If you don't love yourself, how can you possibly love others? How can you possibly give that which you do not have? It is only God who creates ex nihilo, and you cannot give that which you do not have. And I reminded myself that if people like Pixley Kaisaka Seme could do this and talk about legacies and about the political environment, I said that we too can do it, and that is why we remember them, because they are men and women who lived in our times. 1906 is not so long ago, but I did not stop there. I went to Ghana, and I met yet another man, a great man, James Emmons Kwejiragri. James Emmons Kwejiragri was a great Ghanaian, and this great Ghanaian had the opportunity in 1921 of visiting this country. And he came here as a part of a delegation to create race harmony in South Africa in 1921. And you see what he said, anybody who does not love his color does not deserve to live. And he reminded the black people, love your color. And he reminded the white people, love your color. And he told the brown people, love your color. But he did not stop there. He was as melodramatic can be. He said, have you ever had the opportunity of looking at the piano? He said, when you play only the white ones, you produce no melody. When you play the black ones, you produce no melody. But when you harmoniously play the black and the white, you have great melody. And I'm telling us that we must remember that the white and the black are like the left and the right eye. Jointly, they can see with Vision 2020. When you take one of them away, then you cannot see as well as you should. I remember James Kwejiragri. But I did not stop there. I did not stop there because one cannot stop there. I reminded myself of yet another great American, James Lowell Russell, who lived in the 19th century and was grappling with issues that we are concerned with. It was at the height of slavery, this romantic poet, James Lowell Russell, and he was looking at slavery in the United States of America and asking himself, how can we live in a world that is so unjust? How can we live in a world where people are so enchanted by falsehood? How can we live in a world where truth is sacrificed at the altar of opportunity? And I remember in that great poem, the great crisis, the present crisis, there is a poem, a part of the poem that stands out. And this is the part that I love most. He says, truth forever on the scaffold, wrong forever on the crown. But that scaffold sways the future. And beyond the dim unknown standeth God in the shadows, keeping watch over his own. How great is God that beyond the shadows, he still keeps watch over his own. So we who are here in the present world, we must ask ourselves, what is our contribution? What can we do? Because when the chips are down, it is your own contribution. And I have told this story times without number, but I'm going to tell it, that sometimes we come to the world with what I call pseudo-messianic arrogance, believing that we are going to change the world by sheer willpower. Then we discover when we are young, we are energetic, and we think we are going to change the world. And at age 30, we are of the view that we can change our continent because we are Africans. Then at age 40, we discover that we cannot change the continent, and we are South Africans. Then we discover at age 40 that we cannot even change South Africa. At age 50, because we are Gauteng, we say we are now going to change Gauteng, and we discover we cannot change Gauteng. And because we are 60, we say we are now going to change Soweto, and we discover that we cannot change Soweto. And we are age 70, and we are all tired and stupid, and we discover that the only person we ought to have changed was ourselves. And I'm telling us that what we must do is to change ourselves. Because when we change ourselves, then the world changes, because the truth is that the ocean does not exist in spite of the droplets, and the ocean does not exist in spite of the rivers. It is the droplets that make the ocean. And I listened to this very great wisdom from Muhammad Ali. He was a boxer. He did not even go to school. But he said, let us also begin to think in an orthodox way. When somebody told him that the deer was crossing the road. He said, no, it is the road that was crossing the forest. And that is how we should think about things, because it is the road that found the forest, the home of the deer. So which was crossing which? It is the road that was crossing the forest, not the deer crossing the road. And I'm submitting to us that if we want to create our legacies, they used to say, they are saying that we must think outside of the box. I'm saying that we must not think outside of the box. I'm saying, let us think without the box. They used to say that we must heat the iron while the iron is hot. I'm saying, no, let us heat the iron so that it becomes hot. That is the only way in which we are going to change the world, and we have the intellectual wherewithal. But if we leave God in the entire equation, then nothing will happen. God is the common denominator in all these things. And when we believe in him, I believe sincerely and genuinely, there is no limit. The sky is not the limit, the sky is the beginning. Because there are many galaxies to be discovered. But you see, when you are speaking about such things, and men who are greater than yourself have had the opportunity of preceding you before the podium, wisdom dictates that you don't speak for too long, and I will not. But I must now end with a story that has been told in many ways and in many times. It is a story about an eagle. And the man who said it in the most dramatic way was the great Ghanaian James M. Squejiragri. And this is how he said it, that a long time ago, there was a farmer, a poultry farmer, and that this poultry farmer one day was wandering in the forest. And as he wandered in the forest, he saw a big nest, and he climbed the nest, and he peeped into the nest, and he saw some eggs, and he took them and went back home and caused the eggs to be laid on by one of the chickens that he reared. And lo and behold, time passed on, and they were hatched. But when they were hatched, they were a little bit different from the chicks that were born. But you know, chickens are very humble. They said, they look different from us, but we'll entertain them, and entertain them they did. And they were fed on chicken feed for a long time. And as they grew, they became a little different because they were eagles, they were not chicken. But because they lived amongst chicken and they ate chicken food, they acquired some chickenhood. And when they acquired some chickenhood, they thought, even the farmer had said that they had lost their eaglehood and they had embraced chickenhood and they could not fly. So because the chicks could fly a little, they too tried a little, and they never knew that they had the ability to fly a little longer. And one day, a naturalist came and said, but these things you call chicken, they are not chicken, they are eagles. But the farmer said, I know. But I also know one thing, we have fed them on chicken feed for so long that if they had any eaglehood in them, they long lost the eaglehood. They have now become chicken because they have acquired some chickenhood. And the naturalist said, no, once you are eagle, no matter how long you are fed on chicken feed, you never lose your eaglehood. And he said, let me demonstrate to you how it can be done. And one day in the morning, he came out and he took one of the eagles and urged it to fly, but it refused to fly because there was some residual chickenhood in them which cast doubt in their mind. But another day, he came out, and when the sun was bright, he took them on the palm of his hand and urged it to go, and it flew, and they regained their freedom and their eaglehood. And the message to us here as men, we may have been fed on chicken feed for too long, but we never lose our eaglehood. So let us go and leave legacies. Let us fly and fly so that we may enjoy our freedom. But let us, even as we fly as eagles, let us never forget that humility of the chicken is also good. So today, we are here to celebrate our eaglehood so that we may leave a legacy. Ladies and gentlemen, because there are few ladies here, we are going to demonstrate as we leave our legacy that we are eagles and chicken feed will not tie us down. God bless you.
Wow, 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 wow. Come on, give us a proper round of applause. Sure, so much wisdom. I remember Dr. Tivani saying it's such a talk like a mini skirt, you know, short enough to cover the content. Prof, thank you so much for such wisdom. Like, thank you so much. May we continuously be blessed, and may more and more men draw from this sort of wisdom. Thank you so much. Guys,
Thank you for watching our content. Share, comment, and subscribe on all platforms: YouTube, Facebook. We Live Africa.